Well, a warm welcome to Scrabo Hall today. It's great that you can be joining us. This might be your first visit, like it's mine, or you might be a part of this community for a long time. Well, I'm playing some music to you this morning from a little old railway carriage. It's very small, and I'm just going to share 6 songs with you and tell you some stories between. And really the theme for this morning is dreams of a homecoming. I don't know where you call home. For me, home is just kind of a few meters away from here. But there have been times when even here, I felt like I'm not at home. I don't know if you can relate to that. And it seems to be that there's a real sense amongst many people that there's still some exploration to be done as far as finding home is concerned. A sense of alienation in the lives and in the hearts of many people. Well, we'll think about those themes as this morning continues, and thanks so much for being here and being a part of it. I write simple songs, and I'd like to share a few with you this morning. I wrote this first one just sitting in a green in a cafe. I had my kind of coffee in my hand, and I was watching people walking past, but I was in a different kind of place. I was actually in a place that had been going through civil war for a number of years. And as I sat and watched people passing, this little girl came out of a house, and everything around her was broken because of what had gone on. But she was holding on, perhaps it was to her grandfather's hand, but to this old man's hand. And this really short song is just like a snapshot of that moment. I called it The Princess in the Park. Princess in the park, she holds his hand and steps across the green, and her white dress frills jump and sway as she skips and walks. She's 5 years old. Shines against the cold grey, frowning landscape of bombed out buildings in the downtown parade. She's the princess in the park, and everyone turns to smile at her. They smile at her innocence, her joyful insistence to smell the orange flowers that grow between the paving, to point at the pigeon, to laugh at the old man who holds her hand. She's the princess. She's the princess in the park. She's the princess in the park. I don't know if you could kind of imagine her with me, if you could see her as she was holding onto her grandfather's hand. As for you guitarists, that's a song with a drop D, so I'm just putting it back up to E. There we go. You know, I thought it'd be great to read a story together and think about a story together that Jesus shared. You know, his stories were kind of gripping and simple and yet mind-blowing, and often had a kind of sting in the tail. And this morning we're going to read, maybe you've never opened a Bible before, but I would love to share with you just a few lines from one of the stories that Jesus told. If you do have a Bible, you could look at it. I'll read you the bits we're going to explore together. But this is Luke chapter 15, Luke chapter 15. Luke, interesting guy. He was a really careful historian, recorded the accounts of Jesus' life from eyewitnesses, carefully ordered them, and we read them. And various people have tried to press his words and check out whether they are reliable, and they really come up as something that can be relied on when we measure them against archaeological evidence and other historical evidence. So we're reading a carefully compiled account here of one of the stories that Jesus told. Let me read the start of it. So it's Luke 15 and we'll start at verse 11. Jesus continued, "There was a man who had 2 sons. The younger one said to his father, 'Father, give me my share of the estate.' So he divided his property between them. Not long after that, the younger son got together all he had, set off for a distant country, and there squandered his wealth in wild living. After he'd spent everything, there was a severe famine in that whole country, and he began to be in need." Well, they're just the first few lines from that story. But there he is. There's this family, and Jesus is telling the story. We might imagine we're sitting there listening to, and it just sounds like the story of some bloke in another town. He's got a couple of kids, and it's pretty outrageous. One of them saying to his dad, it'd be better if you were dead, so I could have the inheritance, but I'll just take the inheritance. And we all think, yeah, well, we know what the boy's going to get. But no, he doesn't. He receives the inheritance, and off he trudges, off he adventures over the horizon. And we're all wondering, what's the father doing in this story? But as that short introduction to the story has continued, this son has ended up kind of lost. He's spent everything, and now he's in need, was what the last phrase said. I don't know about you, but I find a lot of mates, in fact I see it in my own life too, that you can sometimes just kind of be pressing on and looking for the next place, looking for the place where fulfillment will be found. It might not be right here, right now, but it can't be too far away. And suddenly the story of this son doesn't seem so different after all, because we've got something of that in all of our own hearts too, as we kind of press forward and look for the place where life is going to finally make sense. And I wrote this song. It's called Dreams of a Homecoming. And this is really a song about someone who's just looking for connection and longing to find a way to break that sense of alienation that really has characterized their hearts. And he dreams of a homecoming. Dreams of a belonging, and he dreams of, and he dreams of a homecoming. Yeah, he dreams of a belonging, and he dreams of peace. And home swells his heart, brings tears to his eyes, and he can almost picture it now. But he's looking for the next train line, he's asking for the next boat time. And he dreams of a homecoming, he dreams of a belonging, and he dreams of peace. And every road, every step, and every hitchhiked ride, every touching conversation, every next bus station, every new situation. And he dreams dreams of a homecoming. He dreams of a belonging. And he dreams of dreams of peace. Yeah, he dreams of a homecoming. He dreams of a belonging. And he dreams of dreams of peace. And somehow he feels that this is not the place as he stares into another stranger's face. But he's asking for directions and he's asking for suggestions. He's asking for acceptance. And he dreams of a homecoming. Yeah, he dreams of a belonging. And he dreams of yeah, he dreams of a homecoming. He dreams of a belonging. And he dreams of he dreams of peace. I don't know if you can picture that guy, maybe it's you, I think at times it's been me, just kind of moving on, looking for the place where I'd really find home and connection and peace. Well, that's what has happened to this son in the story. He's set off and he thinks that just somewhere over the next horizon, he's going to find the place where he belongs. He's going to find life. And he's out there trying to squeeze everything out of it. And in the end, he just stands there with his hands empty. Let me read you the next bit of this story of Jesus. So it's Luke chapter 15. And the next thing that happens is this. Do you remember, we've got to the point where he said he's begun to be in need. In verse 15. So he went and hired himself out to a citizen of that country who sent him to his fields to feed pigs. He longed to fill his stomach with the pods that the pigs were eating, but no one gave him anything. Heartbreaking. But here he is, he's reached his dream destination and it's turned out to be nothing. And he's here, standing here, jealous of the pigs, wishing he could eat what they were eating. The thing about Jesus' stories is that as you hear them, they start to kind of wind their way into your soul. And if we were listening to Jesus, we'd suddenly start to realise half a moment, this isn't just about some bloke over there with a family and his story and his rebellious son. But there's something about this story that winds its way into something far more personal than that. You see, the claim of the Bible is that there is a God who is there, that we're made to know, we're made to be connected with, we're made to be living in relationship with. And yet we and our ancestors and all between have said to God, it's all right, actually, I'm going to be in charge. You just kind of keep out of the way. And so we wind on through our lives searching for life, but making sure it doesn't have any reference to a God who is there, who we're made to know. Perhaps you're listening over the shoulder of a friend or some mate has said, hey, come and listen to this with me. I wonder if you were being really honest what you'd say as far as you and your connection with the God who is there. All of us have to be honest and say, well, to be honest, I'm not living my life with reference to him naturally. And suddenly this story takes on board a bigger meaning. A story about, well, what if it was about you and me and our relationship with the God who is there? Well, this next song, it could be written about somebody in your town. You know, they're walking past the billboards, they're kind of watching the TV, staring at the mirror, and as they interact with all these things, well, they feel like they're a broken man. And they look at the billboards, all the promise, they seem empty, you know. And they look in the mirror and where's life going? And this person just feels more and more broken and distant and disjointed, alienated, if you like. And then in the last verse, he sees something that, well, he's seen it 1,000 times before, but today it's like he sees it for the first time. The song's called Broken Man. This broken man, he stands before a billboard and he stares at plastic perfection and beauty, life out of reach, life never known. There's a pang of loss as he averts his aching eyes. This broken man, he stands before a TV and he stares at premeditated violence and war. Life snatched by death, life stained by fear, and he stifles unexplained guilt as he reaches farther remote. And in his heart he kneels, overwhelmed. Yes, in his heart he kneels. Who can rescue us now, this broken man? This broken man, he stands before a mirror and he stares at who he really is. Life that slides by and life left behind, and he searches for a glory that perhaps was never there. And in his heart he kneels, condemned. Yes, in his heart he kneels. Who can rescue us now, this broken man? This broken man, he stands before a wood cross and he stares at love come down and haunting grace. Life poured out, life exchanged, the pierced hands of a God who reaches out, and something resonates deep in his soul, and in his heart he kneels. Yes, in his heart he kneels before this crucified king. He kneels with nothing to bring. Yes, he kneels. And does he hear heaven sing? Does heaven sing for this? Does heaven sing for this? Does heaven sing for this? For this broken man? Well, I hope you like a bit of blues on a Sunday morning. But so there he was, you know, this guy, and he's walking through the town, and but then in the last verse he sees a wood cross. He's walked past it 1,000,000 times, but today it's like he notices it for the first time. In our story, let's see what happens next. So if you remember, he's kind of ended up with nothing, and he's in need, and he's kind of watching the pigs jealously. Verse 17 says this: when he came to his senses, he said, "How many of my father's hired servants, have food to spare, and here I am starving to death. I will set out and go back to my father and say to him, 'Father, I've sinned against heaven and against you. I'm no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired servants.' So he got up and went to his father." So he suddenly realized that, life is collapsing because he's not in connection with the Father he's made to be connected with. And he thinks, well, I can't get back there really on the basis I was before, but maybe I could just go and get a job with my dad at least. He had actually spent his life in the presence of this gracious Father who waited to kind of lavish generously good things on him. His other brother had too. But both of them, as the story continues, you'll see, they both seem to have missed it all their lives. And now this guy is in this extreme situation in a country with recession, with nothing left, and suddenly something twigs. A bit like that broken man in the song, he's walking through the street where he's been 100 times before. But today he sees this symbol of a wood cross that indicates haunting grace, a love that's poured out, a life exchanged. I wrote this next song after walking round a lake with a friend. And we were talking about the kind of things we're talking about today. And it's another song with a drop D. And it resonates actually with some of the words of Jesus. And Jesus, you see, the claim of the Bible is that whilst we can't get to God and get to see who he is, God comes to us in the person of Jesus. And he reveals what he's like. And Jesus, he says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." And that's the chorus of this song that I wrote for my friend who walked around the lake with me. May you know the truth, and may you let him set you free. May you find the one you seek. May you hear his voice whisper out, whisper words of peace. May you see his hands and his pierced feet. May you see the thorns and weep. May you hear his cry echo out, echo, it's complete. Come to me, are you weary and burdened? Take my yoke and learn from me, for I am humble and gentle of heart, and you'll find rest for your soul. You'll find rest for your soul. You'll find rest for your soul. May you see the tomb in the morning light. May you see it gaping wide. May you hear the news ringing out, ringing, he's alive. Come to me, are you weary and burdened? Take my yoke and learn from me, for I am humble and gentle of heart. You'll find rest for your soul. 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 Well, I'm just going to sing you a couple more songs before we close today. Thanks so much for being here and for thinking about these things together. It's great that we can share this morning. I hope one day to be able to visit you in 3D rather than 2. But thanks for having me in 2D at least. Well, our story continues. We've got this guy, and he's now heading towards his dad, and everyone is listening into the story thinking, goodness me, what is the father going to say? But actually, we're all also sitting there thinking, well, if this is about something bigger, if this is about a God who is there, who we've pushed away from our lives, what is the Father going to say? We're wondering. You might be here today thinking, there's a interesting bunch tuning in. They must all be kind of religious buffs, all pretty sorted, good people, But what about me? You might be thinking. Well, we're going to find that all of those who ever come close to the God who is there, who come close to the God who is a heavenly Father, well, all of them actually recognized that they needed a rescue. Let's listen to what the Father says. We're still in Luke 15. Do you remember we've said he got up and went to his father, verse 20. But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion for him. He ran to his son, threw his arms round him and kissed him. And the son starts recounting some kind of speech he'd planned. But the father just says, quick, bring the best robe, put it on him. Put a ring on his finger, sandals on his feet. Bring the fattened calf and kill it. Let's have a feast and celebrate, for this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found. Wow. So unexpectedly, completely against the expectation of the crowd, as the story was being told, this father rushes towards the son who's pushed him away and embraces him. He's probably still covered in pig filth, and the father embraces him and shouts out that he should be honoured. And if you're listening in and you're thinking, well, how's God ever run towards me? Look at my story. But in the song that I've just sung, it spoke of a Jesus who comes and a Jesus who dies on a cross. You see, God does come towards us, and he comes towards us with his arms held open for an embrace. But to draw us into that embrace, those arms were actually nailed to a cross. How does that help, you might say? Well, you see, all of us are guilty. All of us are cut off, alienated from the God we're made to know. But Jesus came and died in our place to take the wrongness, to take the rubbish, to take the dirt, so that we could be forgiven. That's how it is that God has run towards you. He's come in the person of Jesus. He's come to the rescue. I'm just going to sing a couple more songs before we close. This song is called Lavish, and it's about a love that is a love that spills over, a love that is just so big, it changes everything. Lavish love that drives out fear, lavish love embracing near, lavish love, adopting love that calls you child, adopting love pure undefiled, lavish love, his love endures forever, and his faithfulness stands for all time. Forever love untamed by years, from out of this world love the life appears. Lavish love, forgiving love dies on a cross, forgiving love my gain, his loss, his loss, 'cause his love endures forever, and his faithfulness stands for all time. Yeah, his love endures forever, and his faithfulness stands for all time. Life birthing love to last breath, God revealing love conquers death, conquers death. 'Cause his love endures forever, and his faithfulness stands for all time. His love endures forever, and his faithfulness stands for all time. Lavish love, lavish love, lavish love, yeah, lavish love, yeah, lavish love. Well, thanks again for being here today, and that we can think about these things. So that song speaks about a love that is so generous, so big, that's poured out. And whilst we heard about that kind of love in the story that Jesus told, that's only a faint echo of the great love that the Father God has for each of us. Do you remember right at the beginning I sung that story of that little girl holding onto her grandfather's hand, and in that moment she just looked safe. She looked like she was in the place where she belonged, And God wants us to know Him in that kind of intimate, close relationship, connection. And like the son in that story, we don't deserve it. But the message of Jesus that isn't just in this story, but that resonates through his whole life, is that God has come towards us, come to the rescue, reaching out towards us to draw us into relationship. And how does he do that? Well, he dies on a cross to take our wrongness so that we could be forgiven. We could read on, because that's only half the story. There's another son there who thinks he's the bee's knees. He thinks he deserves everything. And he's really angry when he sees the grace of his dad. And that's really written to those of us who think we're all sorted in front of God, that we do all the right things. Because we also are excluded until we receive the generosity, the grace of the lavish love of the Father. I wasn't far from this spot one day when it began to be coming into perspective and focus for me. As I read stories like this, as I heard accounts of Jesus' life, I realized that there is a God who is there, and that I have no possibility of knowing him on my own, of my getting to him. I just couldn't do that. But the message of Jesus became clear to me, that God has come to us in the person of Jesus to die in our place. And I remember I actually knelt down, a bit like the broken man in the song earlier on, and I said, God, I'm sorry for all the wrong things that I've done. Thank you for your generous, gracious love. Thank you that Jesus died in my place to bring me forgiveness. Please be my King. And that was the day that the revolution started for me, as I put my trust, instead of myself doing the right things, my trust in the Jesus who's a rescuer, who's died in my place on a cross. Perhaps even now, as you're tuning in, you want to say thank you to the God who is there, who is so generous and gracious and loving. And you might want to say to him, look, I'm sorry for all the stuff I've done that's so broken and wrong. And you might want to say to Jesus, please be my King. I'm going to sing one more song, and then actually I'm going to pray. And you might, as you listen to this song, want to be deciding for yourself whether you want to echo this prayer as I pray that kind of sorry, thank you, please kind of prayer in a moment. This song is based on an ancient piece of poetry. It resonates through the Bible, actually. And it just says, today, if you hear his voice, don't harden your heart. I wrote it sitting in a bus station. Perhaps one of you walked past as I was writing it. But it's certainly for us today. Today, if you hear his voice. Now you run for the bus, climb on, and you smile at a person you don't know and drive on. But today, if you hear his voice, don't harden your heart. his voice, don't harden your heart. And the busker plays and taps his feet, sweet song, but a reminder of what you want to forget, so move on. But today if you hear his voice, don't harden your heart. Today if you hear his voice, don't harden your heart. 'Cause there's one who loves and who waits and who calls, and there's one who died to save your life. And is their life richer than this? Well, think on. And is there a place of real peace? Well, think on. And today if you hear his voice, don't harden your heart. Today if you hear his voice, don't harden your heart. Today if you hear his voice, don't harden your heart. Today if you hear his voice, don't harden your heart. Well, thanks again that we could share this morning, that we could read that story that Jesus told, experience almost standing in the shoes of that guy as he experiences that homecoming, as he comes home to that father whose love he doesn't deserve, but the father who's willing to shame himself, to make himself dirty for the sake of rescuing his son. And we've been realizing that there's something bigger about that story. It's a story that is about the God of heaven who would even shame himself, using those words intentionally, to die on a cross, to make himself dirty as he takes on our wrongness, so that we could be received back into the Father's embrace. And I guess the question is, what are we going to do with that, I'm going to pray as we close, and praying is really just speaking out to God, believing he's there. And I'm going to say, God, I'm sorry for the wrong things I've done. Thank you for your lavish love. Please forgive me. Please be my King. And if you want to, you can echo these words in your own heart. Father, thank you that we could share this morning and think about these biggest, life-changing, glorious themes. Some of us perhaps for the first time want to say, look, I see it now, and I'm sorry for the way that I've been pushing you out of my life. Sorry for the way I've been going my own way instead of yours. Thank you that that's not the end of the story. Thank you that you love and you reach towards even me. Thank you that you came in the person of Jesus to die on a cross so that I could be forgiven. Thank you that Jesus rose from the dead, that Jesus conquered death because he was the one who could pay for my wrongness. Please, Jesus, be my King. Be the one who is the number one in my life, and I want to live for your honour and not mine anymore. Yes. Amen. If you've prayed that prayer for the first time today, then why don't you tell somebody? ring up a friend or turn to the person you've been watching this with, pop an email to the guys at Scrabbo Hall and start a conversation, because they would love to help you. They'd love to help you to start reading the Bible, to start exploring these things. They're not ideas, distant concepts, as we've been hearing. They're life-changing truths that turn a life upside down, actually turn a life the right way up. So get in touch with the guys and keep that conversation so that you can start growing as somebody who's walking with the living, risen Jesus. Well, thanks to all the people who've organised this event and invited me to drop in for it. And I do hope, as I said earlier, that we'll be able to see each other in 3D one day. But greetings from the railway carriage, and thanks for this morning that we've shared. Take care.